So tell me about how budgeting has gone so far for you. You guys are pretty new with Pennywise, and kind of tell me just, a few minutes of what's gone on and what you're seeing already in probably less than 2 months, right? That we've been working
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, we just started this and so basically we started it and we were super excited about it and we realized that, we had kind of more than we thought and we were able to move it around and kind of see a clear picture. And then we had a disaster happen and we had water leaking through our ceiling and that was always really stressful. And we had two appliances break as a result. And so we had to replace both of those and then do all these repairs. And I think that would have just been such a stressful event. But we found that the budget and being able to put all these numbers in and see how it's all going to work and, move things around made it way less stressful. And we kind of recovered quickly from that, where we realized, okay, let's just get it done. We'll take care of it. We can do it, and let's move on. Like, let's
Yeah.
not sit here and just stress about it so much. So that really helped, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So when we first got started and I just said, okay, lay out your numbers, tell me what's going on. I remember you saying something, Kabir, about just the whole act of looking at it made you guys think differently about
Mm.
how you were spending or where your money was going.
Absolutely. And there's another piece of it where I think you mentioned this in one of our first meetings where when you're budgeting and kind of creating small plates,
Mhm.
it also inspires you to negotiate more for the services that you get. Like, for example, drywall and appliances. I mean, we shopped around like crazy.
Really? Good.
Yeah,
Whereas,
I called
whereas
like 30
before, yeah,
places.
before budgeting, we probably would have just been like, whatever, just get whatever you see. It's not that expensive compared to how, the total. And so when you're always comparing against like the total amount that you make, that's dangerous because you're always paying too much for
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, because you're not just whipping out a credit card and thinking I'll figure it out later or next year it'll sort itself out.
Right.
Yeah, you're thinking, okay, I put this much in my emergency fund. Let's see if we can take care of this for that amount or under. And then we know we're a little bit safer. So, yeah, there was definitely.
And I think you said, Sierra, like the first session we got to really looking at your numbers, you canceled a whole bunch of subscriptions and things.
Yeah, not even really trying to. It was just that looking at it so closely and trying to create a budget, I realized there was like four things that I didn't really need or that we weren't using anymore, or a subscription that was about to renew. And I'm like, oh, I don't want that. So by looking at it, I canceled those and I saved us $500 a month in like the first week
Yeah,
monthly. I mean, that's like over time, that is quite a bit of money. So that
a
was really,
year or 10 years worth of savings
yeah,
really start adding up, right?
yep,
So yeah, I
absolutely.
remember, when we did our initial discovery call, and I get this a lot, people think, how am I going to pay for something like this when we already are broke and we're strapped and we're month to month, and it doesn't seem to matter what we make. We can always spend more than we make.
Yeah,
And I think you guys have already seen that by being more intentional, you're finding money that's going to bless you for, you know,
yeah.
decades or generations.
Yeah, and we're also a lot more like when we opened the bottle of wine the other day. We're like, this is a really good wine. But you enjoy your things more. I think
Yeah.
it's
And I
funny.
think I realized how like valuable this is. So yes, it's expensive. You're strapped for cash. You're feeling like, okay, we haven't made like the best decisions. We need to get back on track and like, so let's spend more money to do so. It's like counterintuitive almost, but I also realized that I'm hoping that this is something that Eris will never have to pay someone to learn how to do because I didn't, get this from my parents. Even though I saw them kind of embodying this or whatever, I don't really feel like you know, I'm gonna teach this to her. Like she's gonna know this like,
Yeah, and
any
we'll be
other
able to
skill,
like
like
give her a
reading,
cube,
writing,
and
budgeting.
we'll be able to like give her a cube with her own debit
Yeah,
card,
and I hope when she
control.
goes out on her own that this is like totally second nature because she's watched her parents do it, her
You
whole
will,
life.
yeah, she's only 3, right?
Yeah,
So you will talk differently about money going forward to your child instead of having it be this sort of mysterious thing that, I don't know, my parents just always made it work. But if you start educating your kids now, Even at 3, you feel like, oh, they're too young to care or to know, but they really do have the opportunity to learn about money makes the world go round, and
Yeah.
how does that work? So you mentioned Cube, Kabir. So you've just started. We're just in those baby stages of getting Cube money off the ground. And I'll just keep you like 2 more minutes, but tell me a little bit about what your experience with that has been so far, because I remember on our last session, you guys just were getting all fired up, just even looking at some of those.
Cube.
Yeah, Cube. I like that. Well, first of all, it seems like a really great tool to collaborate, to have like a checking account that's collaborative and also has a built-in framework of what we've agreed on
Yeah.
already, like what our budgets are. There's no mistaking it. It's not like, halfway through the month we're going, well, we said we were going to spend less on Amazon, and then it's like, but we said we were going to do this or that. It's just a rigid, almost kind of like a rigid framework.
Yeah.
We both have access to the actual money in there, and we can see what's available, what's not available, and the system itself will approve or deny, what the payments really are. Yesterday we were talking also about like Sierra was wanting to go out and
Dip into that pocket money that I had allocated myself.
access her
And I
blow
was
money.
like, we don't have
And
the
like,
cubes funded, so like, should I do the credit? Do we
Right.
have that? And he was like, look at the budget.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to answer this question anymore. Like, this should just be the spreadsheet tells
Yeah.
the answer to that. And so, one of the biggest things that I'm going to get out of this is not to be like the, approver of,
Yeah.
of funds anymore. I don't want to be that. I'm already that
It creates
for
a little bit more
business,
balance.
and it just
In, like,
it
power
improves
dynamics
our
and
relationship too. It's not
communication
like.
and-
I'm always having to be like, well, what did you, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm not that
And
person,
how we
so.
actively, we went in there and we made decisions like, okay, so our dishwasher broke, our microwave broke, we had water dripping through, it was like chaos.
Yeah.
But so we had to move some funds around, do some financing, do the things we had to do. And then in order to make those work, we said, okay, like where should we move money from? And we sat there together and we're like, let's take it from here, this little bit here and here. Can we take $100 off the grocery budget and move it here? So like we made that as like a conscious decision, instead of just, assuming we know where it's going to come from, basically. So we got to kind of choose like where do we want to cut back, or do we even need to?
Yeah.
Like instead of doing an ATM draw, let's move that into this payment or something like that. So that was really great.
It's always a hiccup when life throws us curveballs like that, but they become less and less stressful and you're just getting started. We barely even had, money set aside yet, right? And we're like, oh, really already? But I super appreciated the fact that you reached out and texted me and said, can you talk? Here we have this crisis. What can we do?
Yeah. Kabir was like, don't bother her. And I was like, no, it's when I signed up, she said anytime, and this is a time I need to call her.
I mean it. I truly do. And, some days are fuller than others, but I will always find time to get to you.
Yeah.
And
I immediately sent that text and I was like, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to have to do. If you've got time in the next day, I would like to talk to you before we start making these decisions, maybe about like how we should go about it or what's the smartest.
I would always rather talk to somebody before they made the decision and be another brain in the mix, because I might not know any answers either, but I've got resources and I've got connections, and it's like, let me know what's going on. So I always tell people, tell me what's going on in your life, not just with your money, right? Because there might be stuff that I know that you don't know, or people I know.
Yeah,
and
like
so,
the car thing.
the car thing. And so, I think I mean that 100% when I say, put me on speed dial, because I will be available to you most of the time. Now I'm getting ready to leave on vacation, and maybe I'm not going to, be communicating this next week. But, beyond that, I would rather talk you off the ledge before you go do something, because too often our instinct is like, oh my God, the car needs brakes. I better go buy a new car or something. You're like, oh, slow down.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what we can do. And I think that's huge. So anyway, I just wanted to jump on. You were saying some amazing stuff, and I appreciate you letting me record it. And I can't wait to see where the next, months and years go for you. So thank you so much.
Just as like, just to kind of, because you were asking about the cubes and how it um, you know, I'm not totally foreign to budgeting, but it's different when you have a system with built-in controls, and especially when you're dealing with two people, you
Yeah.
know, and we're trying to make this more of a partnership. Most of my life, it's just been like my checking account, my budget, like, you know, I haven't had to really worry about two, you know,
Two people, now
two
three
people, three
people.
people, you know, more people, except in a different scenario, which is in business, which makes total sense. But the finances that are run that way were very different than the finances that were run in my house, and now they're starting to look similar. You know, where there's a planning process, there's agreement going on. You know, we're talking about it, and it just feels really right, and
You were
yeah,
saying
it just
that
yeah.
because you're like, I've tried to do budget before the house. I go, yeah, but this one's like really. He's like, yeah, this one's better. He's like, but actually, this is how I do my business.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like,
with
if
the
I ran
same
my business like doing our home
well
finances, like would not be good.
that also, but
Too many moving parts.
you know, I'm really surprised that more banks are not doing these like labeled buckets,
Cubes
you know,
thing.
cubes
Yeah.
basically. I'm
Like
I'm really
Chase was
surprised
doing
that
cube.
more are
Yeah.
not doing that. Back in the day, like 10 years ago or something, I opened a Simple account, and they started to do something like this. They called them labels, where you would put money into labels, and I thought that was really cool. And I started doing some of that, but then the bank went away. I think they
Yeah.
got bought by somebody, and then they were kaput. But
Yeah, it'd be
I'm
really cool to
surprised
see
that this
bigger
isn't
banks
catching
doing
on
this.
more. You know, the
Yeah.
banks must be like discouraging this because they want people to use credit cards.
Well, I think what I've learned after talking with the guys at Cube Money is that it's a very complicated process, and they've had to develop a lot to be, to be able to do this. And it's a proprietary thing right now, I think. And so, yeah,
Absolutely.
I really am hopeful that Cube Money really takes off and that people get the value of it, because at one point you said it was a rigid structure, but it's really not. It's very fluid. You
Sure.
can move it. You just
Right.
have to decide, and you
Right.
have to talk to her
Right.
about, okay, if I take from groceries to put it into dining, are we on agreement, instead of, oh, I just did that, you know?
Right, and just the notifications to everyone where, you know, this much money got spent on groceries, and it's just so transparent that way.
Yeah.
It's very communicative. It's not like this infinity card, you know, that's just like whatever comes to mind, bing, 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 you know, like it's Las Vegas.
I
You know,
also
it's
like there's one difference between like we did Rocket Money, which is kind of a budgeting type app where
That
kind of
works
like
too, yeah.
AI does it kind of for you more, so you're less involved. Um, but how they often show it, and I know there's other, I don't know, there's just something the way Cube shows you how much money you have left. You have $500 left. You have $150 left. You have 50. You have $5 left, and versus saying, oh, 5% of your budget is groceries, and you've got this much left. It's like in some kind of percentage, and it's on like on a pie chart. And I'm like, no, I want to see how many dollars I have left. Like it's an account. Like how much do I have left in my account? And then Rocket Money is also not actually connected to, money. It's showing you what you're spending out of your whole checking account, but things get lost, they get moved around. But if you're just using your grocery cube, not one of those transactions is gonna not get into that category because you're using it every time. So it's tracking it better
I
too.
liken it to driving, looking through the front window instead of the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things are like,
Like
this
that.
is what you did. And it's like, no, I want to know what I'm going to do and where I'm
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
in the real-time accountability, where, like you said, it pops up like the minute you're still standing at the kiosk and the thing goes ping, you spent that. And
Right.
yeah, so I'm really excited and there's much more to come with that. You haven't even really skimmed the surface of what all Cube's going to be able to do for you.
Yeah,
So
and this whole process has kind of really illuminated for me that, a couple times in the past, I've tried to put a spreadsheet together and have Sierra sit down with me, and I think it was a very intimidating process for her. And now I'm realizing this. At the time, I was like, why don't we just look at this? It's super easy. Numbers, they don't lie. It's gonna. But what I realize is that, like, for Sierra to look at a spreadsheet and be like, this is how we're gonna manage finances, I think in the past you were like, holy shit, this is a lot. I don't know how to do this. Is really complicated, and just like freak out and run away.
Yeah.
And she kind of, vulnerably admitted the other day that when we started this and you had a very similar looking spreadsheet, she was like, she had the impulse to like run away from it as well. But having stuck through it, and now translating that into a system that is actually usable and not just like, how does my behavior have to be guided by this complicated looking spreadsheet, and I have to fill in the gaps there. No, it's the system, it has implemented that, and it's going to save me from myself a little bit.
Yeah, I pick
is a
these
lot
things
better.
up a little
Yeah.
bit slower than you do.
Well-
You were like, oh, cool, I already got it, like in a day. The first day, he's like, yeah, I got this. And I was like, oh, okay. So he started doing more on it. But I didn't want that to become, now he's doing the whole budget because I don't know how to use it. So I'm just like, oh, yeah, just go ahead and do it. So I was like, no, I'm going to keep learning this. And I just pick it up slower, which has been great because he was able to jump in right away and kind of start doing things. But I'm still learning it. And then pretty
am I.
soon I'll be comfortable and I'll know it like the back of my hand. But I just, like, there's a little bit of a curve there that I have to like catch
You know
up
what you said earlier was perfect, and I don't even, you probably didn't even pick up on it, but you said, no, let me do it. Let me put in there. And that's where we're getting to, where I like to start with the person who feels confident with it and then shift the thing, because you both need to be comfortable with it.
Totally.
And some people aren't as, either they're not on computer, you're momming a lot of the day, you're not on spreadsheets. It makes sense that it's not as intuitive to you.
Yeah.
You're
So
not
it's
stupid,
totally
and
new
you
for
can,
the process.
yeah. It's not so much about the spreadsheets, it's about the number that went in it,
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
going to do with that, right?
Yeah, if you're not used to these things, you're not only learning how to budget, but you're also learning how Excel works.
Yeah.
Like simultaneously. And I'm like, okay, this is like too much information.
Yeah.
But it was great because we got to get off the ground running quick because he picked it up and we were able to just start it. And then while I'm learning the program and process and how to do it, so it's been great. I think we've been a good team.
Yeah.
Figure it all out.
Well, I'm loving working with you, so thank you for letting me share your experience with some others.
No, thank you, because this was like every other aspect of our relationship is like really good, but this was a big, like, this was causing a lot of tension.
Yeah, we
a
noticed
lot
it's
of
already been like a
problems,
really
and-
positive shift.
Yeah,
Like a
big
lot
positive
less
shift.
stress in our relationship even too.
Yeah.
We're like, and it was so
We didn't need a
perfect.
couples counselor. We just needed a financial coach.
Financial therapy. And also it was such a good time to start it with like the new year.
You can use that one too. Wait, hold on. Let me take another. We didn't need a couples therapist. We just needed a financial coach.
That's right. Yeah, that's going to be my sound big. Yeah. And I think most people that I've worked with understand that my background in social work has a lot to do with how I communicate with people and how I handle money. It's not, I don't think it's about finance. It's about behavior. And, and it doesn't seem like you felt like I was, telling you how to spend your money and telling you, oh, you screwed up and blah, blah, blah. So that's a lot of fear. I think people come to the table with going, what's she going to do? What's she going to be like? And I'm like, it's your money. It's not my money, but you'll grow over time and you'll be different a year from now than you are today. But, it's a process, not an event.